There's a moment that happens so quietly, you've probably never noticed it. It's not dramatic, there's no flash of light, no sound, but in that moment everything changes, your entire reality splits, and the version of you that continues is only one of the versions that could have been. The others, they're living too, somewhere, in a timeline you'll never touch. And the strangest part, the choice that caused the split. You make it dozens of times a day, maybe hundreds, and you have no idea you're doing it. Most people live their entire lives in a single groove. They wake up, they think the same thoughts, they make the same choices, they see the same world, and they believe deeply without question that this is just how life is, that reality is fixed, solid, unchangeable. But what if I told you that every time you make a certain kind of choice, reality doesn't just shift, it fractures? And the life you're living right now is only one thread in an infinite web of possibilities that are all happening simultaneously. This isn't science fiction, it's not metaphor. Quantum physicists have been saying it for a century, mystics have been whispering it for millennia, and now neuroscience is starting to catch up. The choice I'm talking about, it's so small, so invisible that most people never see it, but once you do, you can't unsee it, and that's when everything changes. Let me take you there. Think about this morning, the moment you woke up, before you opened your eyes, before you reached for your phone, before you even moved. There was a split second where you existed in pure potential. You weren't yet the person who had to go to work, or the person who's stressed about money, or the person who feels stuck. You were just awareness, a field of possibility. And then, almost instantly, you made the choice. You chose to become that person again. You didn't think about it, you didn't decide it consciously, but you reached into the library of your identity, pulled out the same character you've been playing for years, and you put it on like a costume. And in that moment, reality clicked into place around you. The same problems, the same limitations, the same story. The split happened so fast you didn't even notice, but one version of you continued down the familiar path, and infinite other versions dissolved into the unknown. The choice I'm talking about is this, the choice of who you are. Not who you want to be, not who you're trying to become, but who you decide you are in each and every moment. Because here's the thing most people don't realize, you are not a fixed being, you are a constant act of creation. Every single moment, you are choosing which version of yourself to bring into existence. And every single moment, reality reshapes itself around that choice. The mystics called it Maya, the illusion of a solid self. The Buddhists called it anatta, the truth of no self. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear that we mistake for our true face. And quantum physicists, they discovered something that should have shattered everything we believe about reality, the observer effect. The principle that says the act of observation collapses infinite possibilities into a single outcome. You are the observer, and the version of you that you hold in your mind is collapsing reality around you every single second. Let me show you how deep this goes. Right now, as you're reading this, there's a thought stream running in your mind. It's so constant, so familiar that you probably think it's you. It's saying things like, I wonder if this is true, or I need to remember this, or what should I do after this? It's narrating your experience, judging it, commenting on it. And beneath all of that noise, there's a deeper program running, a belief system, a set of assumptions about who you are and what's possible for you. I'm the kind of person who struggles with this. I'm not good at that. This is just how I am. Life is hard. I can't change. These aren't just thoughts, they're choices. And every time you think them, every time you agree with them, you're collapsing the quantum field of possibility into a single, narrow outcome. You're taking infinite potential and crushing it into a small, repetitive loop. You're choosing the same reality over and over and over again. And the universe has no choice but to reflect it back to you. This is where it gets eerie. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain doesn't actually experience reality, it predicts it. Dr. Anil Seth, a cognitive neuroscientist, calls perception a controlled hallucination. Your brain takes in a tiny sliver of sensory data, runs it through your existing beliefs and memories, and then generates a simulation of reality. That simulation is what you experience as the world. But here's the kicker. Your brain is always trying to confirm what it already believes. It's looking for evidence that supports your self-concept. If you believe you're unlucky, your brain will filter reality to show you all the ways you're unlucky. If you believe people don't like you, your brain will interpret neutral expressions as rejection. If you believe you're stuck, your brain will literally blind you to opportunities that are right in front of you. You're not seeing reality, you're seeing a reflection of your inner choice. And every moment you make that choice, every moment you reaffirm the same identity, you split away from the versions of you who chose differently. I want you to try something right now, just for a moment. Stop thinking about yourself, not in the sense of don't be selfish. I mean literally, stop referencing yourself in your thoughts. Stop the I narration. Stop saying I need to, or I feel, or I am. Just stop and notice what's left. There's still awareness, isn't there? There's still something here, experiencing this moment, but without the constant reinforcement of I, something shifts. The boundaries get softer, the story loosens, and for just a second, you're not the character anymore. You're the space in which the character appears. This is the gap, the place where the split happens, and this is where you have power. Ancient Taoist philosophers spoke of wu-wei, effortless action, not forcing, not trying to become, just being. They understood that the moment you stop clinging to a fixed identity, reality becomes fluid again. The rigid walls dissolve, new possibilities emerge, not because you're manifesting them or attracting them, but because you're no longer collapsing the field into the same tired pattern. You're letting reality breathe. Alan Watts used to say, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You can't pin down what you are, because what you are is the space of awareness itself, formless, infinite, ever-changing. The moment you say, I am this, you've created a boundary, and boundaries, by definition, exclude. They say, I am this, and therefore I am not that. And in that exclusion, entire realities disappear. But what if you stopped defining yourself? What if, just for today, you let go of the story? What if you woke up tomorrow and didn't reach for the same identity? What if you met the world without the armor of I am anxious, or I am not enough, or I am broken? What if you existed, just for a moment, as pure potential? That's the split, that's the choice. Let me tell you about a man named Neville Goddard. He was a mystic and philosopher in the early 20th century, and he spent his entire life teaching one core idea: consciousness is the only reality, not in some abstract spiritual way. He meant it literally. He believed that the state of consciousness you occupy right now, in this moment, is selecting the reality you experience. He would say, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And he didn't mean your personality. He meant the version of self you're assuming to be true, the state you're identified with. If you walk through life assuming you're powerless, reality will present you with situations that confirm your powerlessness. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because your consciousness is tuned to that frequency. You're selecting for it. Neville taught a practice he called revision. At the end of each day, he would replay moments that didn't go the way he wanted, but instead of just remembering them, he would revise them in his imagination. He would imagine them going differently, not as fantasy, but as if it had actually happened that way. And he claimed that by doing this, he wasn't just changing his memory, he was shifting timelines. He was choosing a reality where the event happened differently. Sounds insane, right? Except quantum mechanics says something eerily similar. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles behave as waves of probability until they're observed. Then they collapse into a single position. But here's the strange part. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the many worlds interpretation, suggest that the particle doesn't just choose one position. It chooses all positions, and reality itself splits into multiple branches, one for each possibility. In one branch, the particle went left. In another, it went right. Both are real, both exist. You just happen to be conscious of the branch where it went left. Now apply that to your life. Every moment, infinite possibilities exist, infinite versions of you. In one timeline, you said yes. In another, you said no. In one, you took the risk. In another, you played it safe. All of those timelines are real. All of those versions of you are living, but your awareness is only experiencing one. And the version you experience is the one you choose to identify with. This is where most people get stuck. They think, okay, so I just choose to be rich, happy, and successful, and it happens. No, that's not how it works. Because the choice isn't intellectual, it's not something you decide with your thinking mind. It's deeper. It's a shift in being. It's not about wanting to be different. It's about being different right now, in this moment, before anything in the external world has changed. Eckhart Tolle talks about this in The Power of Now. He says the greatest illusion is the belief that this moment is not enough, that you need something to change before you can be at peace. But the moment you make peace with what is, something shifts, not because the external world changes, but because you stop resisting. And when you stop resisting, you stop collapsing reality into the same fearful, limited pattern. You open a door. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing in a dark room and there are 1,000 doors around you. Each door leads to a different reality, a different version of your life. But you're holding a flashlight and you can only see one door at a time. Whichever door you point the flashlight at, that's the one you'll walk through. Your consciousness is the flashlight, and your identity, your sense of I am, is where you're pointing it. If you believe I am struggling, the light shines on the door labeled struggle, and you walk through it again and again, not because it's the only door, but because it's the only one you're looking at. But what happens when you shift the light? What happens when you say, I am at peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you choose to identify with peace instead of chaos? What happens when you say, I am abundant, not because your bank account says so, but because you recognize the abundance that already exists in this moment? The doors don't change, but your reality does. There's a practice in Tibetan Buddhism called Phawa, the transference of consciousness. Monks train for years to master it because they believe that at the moment of death, consciousness has a choice. It can cling to the identity it's always known and be reborn into the same cycle of suffering, or it can let go, dissolve into pure awareness, and transcend the cycle entirely. But here's what most people miss. You don't have to wait until death to practice this. You can do it right now. Every moment is a death. Every moment, the you that existed a second ago is gone. And every moment, you have a choice: cling to the old identity or let it dissolve and be born anew. This is the split. Most people cling. They wake up and immediately re-enter the dream of who they were yesterday. They scroll through their phone and reinforce the same thoughts. They go to work and play the same role. They interact with people and repeat the same patterns. And by the end of the day, they've chosen the same reality 1,000 times over. But you can choose differently. You can wake up and instead of reaching for your identity, just be. You can sit in silence and let the character dissolve. You can move through your day without narrating it. You can meet people without the armor of I am this kind of person. You can exist as a question instead of an answer. And when you do, something miraculous happens. Reality stops repeating itself. New possibilities start appearing, not because you're forcing them, not because you're manifesting them, but because you've stopped collapsing the field into the same narrow outcome. You've stopped being the bottleneck, and the universe finally has room to move. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman, let's call her Sarah. She spent 15 years in the same job, same routine, same frustrations. Every morning she'd wake up and think, I hate this, I'm trapped, I'll never get out. And every day her reality confirmed it. Opportunities would come, but she wouldn't see them. Or she'd see them and immediately think, that's not for me, I'm not qualified, I'm not lucky enough. Her brain was filtering reality through the lens of I am stuck. And so she was. One day she had a breakdown, not the kind that destroys you, but the kind that cracks you open. She was sitting in her car, crying, and she suddenly thought, what if none of this is real? What if the person I think I am isn't real? And in that moment, something shifted. She stopped trying to become someone different. She stopped trying to escape. She just let go. She stopped narrating her life. She stopped referencing herself in every thought. She started moving through her day as if she were a visitor in her own life, just observing, just experiencing, without the constant weight of I am this, I am that. Within 3 weeks, her boss offered her a new position she didn't even know existed. Within 2 months, she met someone who introduced her to a completely different field. Within 6 months, her entire life looked unrecognizable. Did the external world change? Yes, but it changed because she did, not because she tried to change, because she stopped being the person who was stuck. She stopped collapsing reality into that pattern, and the moment she did, the universe had space to rearrange itself. This is the secret they don't teach you. You can't change your life by force. You can't think your way into a new reality. You can only be your way into it. Now I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like spiritual bypassing, like I'm supposed to just think positive and ignore my problems. No, that's not what this is. This isn't about denying your pain. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about recognizing that pain is not your identity. Struggle is not your identity. Fear is not your identity. These are experiences. They're weather patterns moving through the sky of your awareness. But you are the sky. Carl Jung said, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. But even that's not quite right, because the moment you say I am becoming, you've created a gap between who you are now and who you're trying to be. And in that gap, there's resistance, there's effort, there's suffering. The deeper truth is this: you are already whole. You're not broken, you're not incomplete, you're not lacking. The version of you that's struggling, that's a character, a mask, a role you've been playing for so long you forgot it was a costume. But beneath the costume, you are infinite. And the moment you stop identifying with the character's problems dissolve. Not because they're solved, but because they were never yours to begin with. Let me take you even deeper. There's a concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. For a long time, scientists believed that your brain was fixed, that by the time you were an adult, your personality, your habits, your way of thinking were set in stone. But research over the last few decades has completely overturned that idea. Your brain is constantly changing. Every thought you think, every choice you make, every emotion you feel is literally reshaping your neural pathways. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist and researcher, has spent years studying this. He's shown that people can rewire their brains simply by changing the way they think and feel. But here's the part that blows people's minds. You don't have to wait for external circumstances to change before you rewire your brain. You can do it right now. You can sit in meditation, imagine a different reality, feel as if it's already true, and your brain will start forming the neural connections as if it's actually happening. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a vivid imagination and a physical experience. To your brain, if you feel it deeply enough, it's real. This is why Olympic athletes visualize their performance before they compete. This is why stroke patients can regain movement by imagining themselves moving. This is why people who practice gratitude literally rewire their brains to notice more things to be grateful for. You're not a victim of your neurology, you're the sculptor. And the tool you're sculpting with, your state of being. But here's where it gets even stranger. Quantum physicists have discovered something called quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where two particles become connected in such a way that changing one instantly changes the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. It defies everything we thought we knew about cause and effect. And some researchers are starting to wonder, what if consciousness works the same way? What if the version of you that exists in this moment is entangled with all the other versions of you that exist in parallel timelines? What if, when you shift your state of being, you're not just changing your brain, you're collapsing into a different timeline? This isn't science fiction. This is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics proposed by physicist Hugh Everett III. It suggests that every time a quantum event occurs, every time a choice is made, the universe splits into multiple branches. In one branch, you made one choice. In another, you made a different choice. Both are real, both exist. You're just conscious of one. But what if you could shift your consciousness from one branch to another? What if the you in this timeline could merge with the you in a timeline where things went differently, where you made the brave choice, where you took the risk, where you trusted yourself? Neville Goddard believed this was possible. He called it revision, but it's deeper than that. He believed that by shifting your state of consciousness, by feeling as if a different reality were true, you could literally jump timelines. And the bizarre thing is, people do this all the time without realizing it. Have you ever had the experience of remembering something differently than it happened? Not just a false memory, but a memory that feels so real, you could swear it happened that way. And then someone shows you evidence that it happened differently, and you're genuinely shocked. Most people call this the Mandela effect. But what if it's not a glitch? What if it's evidence that you've shifted timelines? That the version of you in this timeline has a memory from a different timeline where things happened differently? I'm not saying this is definitely what's happening, but I'm saying consider the possibility, because if it's true, it changes everything. It means you're not stuck. It means the past isn't fixed. It means that every moment you have the power to choose which timeline you're conscious of, not by changing the past, but by changing who you are in this moment. Because the version of you that you identify with determines which timeline you experience. Let me bring this back to something practical, something you can actually use. Right now, think about a problem in your life, something that feels stuck, something that feels like it's always been this way and always will be this way. Now ask yourself, who is the version of me that has this problem? Not the surface level answer. Go deeper. What identity am I holding that makes this problem possible? What belief about myself am I clinging to that keeps this pattern alive? Maybe it's I'm not good enough. Maybe it's I'm unlucky. Maybe it's I'm broken. Maybe it's life is hard. Whatever it is, that belief is a choice. You're choosing to identify with it. And every moment you choose it, you're collapsing reality into a timeline where that belief is confirmed. But here's the thing, you can choose differently. Not by fighting the belief, not by trying to convince yourself it's not true, but by simply letting it go, by recognizing that it's not you, it's a thought, a pattern, a costume, and you can take it off. What happens when you do? You stop feeding the timeline where that belief is true, and you start collapsing into a timeline where it never existed in the first place. This is the split, this is the choice, and you make it every single moment. There's a teaching in Zen Buddhism that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. On the surface, it sounds like nothing changes, but everything changes. Before enlightenment, you chop wood because you have to, because you're a person who needs firewood, because you're trapped in the cycle of survival and effort and struggle. After enlightenment, you chop wood because you're chopping wood. There's no story, no resistance, no identity clinging to the action. You're not a person who chops wood. You're just the act of chopping, the flow, the movement, the presence. And in that space, suffering dissolves, not because life gets easier, but because you've stopped being the person who suffers. This is the ultimate split, the final choice. Most people spend their whole lives trying to change their circumstances, trying to get more, be more, achieve more. But no matter how much they get, it's never enough, because they're still the same person, carrying the same identity, collapsing reality into the same pattern. But when you let go of the identity, the circumstances become irrelevant. You could be in the same situation, the same job, the same relationship, and your experience of it would be completely different. Not because the situation changed, because you stopped being the person who needed it to change. You became the space in which change happens naturally. I want to leave you with a practice, something you can do starting today. When you wake up tomorrow, don't immediately reach for your identity. Don't immediately become you. Just be. For a few minutes, sit in silence. Don't think about what you have to do. Don't narrate your experience. Don't reach for your phone. Just exist as awareness. And then, as you start your day, notice the moment when you choose to become you again. Notice the moment when you pick up the story. I'm the person who's stressed about work. I'm the person who's worried about money. I'm the person who feels stuck. And in that moment, choose differently. Not by forcing a new identity, not by pretending to be someone you're not, but by not choosing at all, by just being, by moving through your day without the constant weight of self-reference. See what happens. See if reality starts to shift. See if new possibilities appear. See if the stuck places start to loosen. Because the truth is, you're not stuck. You've never been stuck. You've just been choosing the same reality over and over again without realizing you were choosing. But now you know. The split is happening right now. It's always happening. Every single moment, infinite versions of you are branching into existence. Infinite timelines, infinite possibilities. And the one you experience is the one you choose to be. Not with your thoughts, not with your desires, but with your state of being, with the identity you hold, with the version of self you decide is real. So who are you choosing to be? Not tomorrow, not when things get better, not when you figure it out. Right now, in this moment. Who are you? Because that choice is creating your reality. And reality, it's splitting right now with every breath, with every heartbeat, with every flicker of awareness. The question is, which version of you will continue? The one who believes they're stuck, or the one who knows they're infinite? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. And the moment you truly see that, everything changes. Take a breath. Let it all go. The story, the identity, the weight. Just for a moment, be no one, be nothing, be the space, be the awareness, be the infinite field of possibility that you've always been. And from that space, watch reality reshape itself around you. Not because you forced it, not because you manifested it, but because you finally stopped collapsing it into the same small, repetitive pattern. You let go, and the universe finally had room to breathe. This is the split. This is the choice. This is the secret hidden in every moment of your life. And now that you've seen it, you can never unsee it. The question is, what will you do with it?